Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run the services at MedComms So information services, resources for people who work in and around medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, and the associated businesses across the globe. You'll find lots of information at MedCommsNetworking.com, but specifically a shout out for those of you interested in joining the business. I provide a lot of information at first medcommsjob.com, so you'll find various webinars and recordings, articles, careers guides, and so on. And over at NetworkPharma TV, you'll find hundreds of videos now about all manner of topics to do with MedComms. I'm having a bit of fun at the moment talking to people around the world in MedComms and just talking about their personal stories, hearing how they got into MedComms and what they're doing. So today I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Kai. Kai, I'll let you introduce yourself. Just tell us who you are and where you are, and then let's go back to the beginning. What were you doing and how did you get into MedComms? Over to you, Kai.
Yeah. Hi, Peter. Yeah, pleasure to be here, and hello to everybody who's joining and listening to this. Yeah, so originally German, and spent quite a bit of time, probably more than most of you who are considering going into MedComms, in academic research first in Switzerland, then for a number of years in Denmark. And as I was going through the usual career steps in academia, I refined my interest. I realized, for example, that, okay, at some point I wasn't so interested anymore in doing experiments, working in the lab, working at the bench. But I realized that what I really enjoyed was writing publications, shaping up ideas, developing content, and helping people find the focus and the most interesting parts of what they were doing. Because I realized that there are lots of people who had really fantastic ideas, but often they were struggling with putting them in a format or in sentences, in slides that would communicate this brilliance and this excitement to other people. And yeah, I felt this was something I enjoyed, and apparently I also, at least the feedback I got from my colleagues and peers showed that I could make a difference there and I could have an impact. So when the time came that I decided what I'm going to do next in my professional life, I thought, okay, well, let's have a look at what the possibilities are in scientific communication. Yeah, and I also had the motivation to come back to Switzerland at that point of time. So I started looking in the local medical communications community, and there was actually more than I expected. Because it's not something, it's not a job you hear so much about, right, if you're in academia. Yeah, so, but I mean, once you talk to people, people are happy to tell you what they're doing. There's a lot of excitement also about the job in the community. So yeah, that was basically the start for my my professional career in MedComms.
Okay, and so let's just tease that out a little bit. So you joined nspm, didn't you, in Switzerland, and that was about 4 years ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. 3.5.
Okay, and 3.5, 4 years ago, and you joined as a medical writer.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, tell us just a little bit about nspm. Just give us a flavor of the sort of size of company it is, where it's based, and so on.
Yeah. So nspm has around about 50 people, and we have 2 offices in Cheadle in the UK, and then near Manchester, and then close to beautiful Lake Lucerne in Switzerland.
Excellent. And the sort of work you do at nspm, just give us a flavor of the sorts of projects you get involved in.
Yeah, so we have a very wide variety of projects. We may not be the biggest company, but we do offer a wide variety of services to our clients. And so personally, I'm working with the usual classical MedComms, if you want, publications, of course, then materials for doctors, slides for events, but we're also doing digital work, website content, for example. I personally have been quite heavily involved in the past year or so. So there's quite a bit of variety, which I think is one of the really good sides of the jobs, because you get to work with different people, you get to work with other agencies, other suppliers, and you get to learn a lot. Yeah.
Okay, and just again, I'm just getting just a flavour of this. So the sorts of clients you work with, are they the international head offices of companies? Are you working on communication projects at a global level, or are you doing work for Switzerland? Sorry.
We are also doing work for Switzerland and for some of the neighboring countries, but I would say that most
Right.
of our work is for global, or at least European teams.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. So tell us a bit about the work. Well, I'm interested in the sort of work you're doing on a day-to-day basis, and you've said you cover a whole load of projects. As a writer, you're working as presumably within a team. I mean, I'm guessing you don't sit at a desk and just write sort of thing. Just give us a little bit of a
No.
flavour for someone who doesn't really understand what I'm trying to say there. But I guess you do. You're part of a
Mhm.
team of people supporting each other and so on. Just give us a little bit of a flavour of the sorts of work you do on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah. So this is actually something I could probably would I personally also enjoy in the place where I'm at the moment. I'm part of several teams. I mean, you always
Right.
like, well, one big account and then a few smaller ones, and it gives a lot of variety, a lot of interaction with different people, different clients. So it's a mix of the traditional writing. You spend time with designing slides, but at the same time it's giving feedback to colleague, evaluating feedback from others, um, incorporating clients' wishes or last minute changes, a little bit of project management if the project demands it, meetings. So yeah, it's really not that you would spend the whole day staring at your screen,
Right.
and looking at a Word document or a PowerPoint file. There's a lot more variety than that.
And in terms of the team, not just other writers, I guess there are editors, there are design type people, visualization people.
Mm-hmm.
There's key opinion leader types. Presumably, you're dealing directly with the sort of experts in the field. I'm sort of saying this, and you're
Mm-hmm.
nodding, but I'm just trying to give the people a flavour if they haven't thought about it before. You know, some people think a writer just sits there and just sort of like does that bit of writing, but it's a really quite a varied role, isn't it? And you're dealing with a lot of different and interesting people.
Yeah, exactly, because you're not it's not your own results that you're writing down, obviously. So you're working with the people, yeah, the people on site, the people in the clinics, so the doctors, but you're also working with the clients, when they're organizing an event. You're working with speakers on meetings, discussing with them what's the best way to present their data, what is the most exciting findings, and what do they want to get across, what do they want their audiences to remember. And I think this is, if you've seen, if you've worked in academia, you know how difficult it is to get these messages across and get people, and everybody's excited about their science, but getting this excitement across is something where medcoms, where the professional medcoms can really make a difference. And that's, I think, what we see every day at NSPM.
And just so this is putting you on the spot slightly, I suppose, but you were in academia for quite a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and I, entirely understand your reasoning for wanting to move on. But can you just give us a flavour of perhaps I don't know, can I say the good things, the bad things, what was expected, what was unexpected? You came out of academia into a commercial environment. I mean, it's only best part of 4 years, call it. Can you still remember what it was like? Was it a culture shock? Were there things happening that you were not expecting?
I didn't have much expectations. It's not my nature to have a
Right.
clear, predefined idea of what's going to
Okay.
happen.
That's
But
easy then. Okay.
yeah, yeah. No, but there are definitely differences. I mean, of course, it takes a lot more coordination. Yeah, the teams in academia, of course, sometimes you work with you collaborate with different labs, but then it's more informal. And of course, like, we're working with big companies. There's much more there's a much more structured way of interacting. Yeah, so this is different. Then of course the timelines are often
Right.
are often tighter. Mhm. And there's the whole. I mean, I haven't worked with patient data in my academic days, but of course there are all the aspects of compliance and what can you show and what do you have to take into consideration, communicating with patients, communicating with doctors. So there's a lot more. There are a lot more rules
Rules. Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
to what we do.
And the commercial side of it. I mean, did you find that a problem at all? I mean, you're talking about a bit about timelines, but there's budgets involved as well. I mean,
Mhm.
you've got to sort of like deliver a project on time and within budget. That's quite important. So did you find that a little bit different or difficult to begin with, or did you settle into that quite easily? Are you filling in timesheets all the time so that someone somewhere is monitoring that sort of activity? How's that work?
We have a quite easy to use system to monitor the time we spend. But of course, this is a different that you have to be more conscious of how you spend your time. But I have to say, this is something that would probably also benefit a lot of people in academia if they started
Right.
doing this a bit earlier. Yeah.
Okay. So no real challenges on that front there. You've settled in obviously quite well, and you're clearly enjoying yourself. The enthusiasm's coming over there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's there are differences, but they're part of the job. They have their reasons. I mean, everybody has budgets and they have to meet them, and it's not that money is an unlimited resource. We can just keep doing what we want to do, but we have timelines. We have to gauge the level of so the famous 80-20 rule. Sometimes you can make it a 90-10 rule or whatever, but yeah, we
And
have to
just tell us
deliver
a little bit your
quality.
quality, but at budget sort of thing and on
Yes,
time. Yeah.
yes.
Well, just tell us a little bit. You've obviously, if you've been working there about 4 years, you've come through the pandemic, the lockdowns.
Mhm.
There's been quite a lot of change to working practices and so on. I guess do you work from home, or do you work a sort of hybrid model? Do you go in the office at all?
Yes, we have a hybrid model, and I enjoy going to work every week.
Right.
And I have to say, this has been really good at NSPM because we have these two offices, and so we had all the infrastructure in place. And yeah, it's just it's working well, and I think it's the convenience of having this possibility of working at home. If the employer has such a policy, I think is a big plus. And yes, if you have a family, for example, then it's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
there are times, as you as discussed earlier, when it makes things easier. Maybe times later when it makes things more complicated, but the
But it's
flexibility
nice
is
to have the
great.
flexibility. Yeah. That's good. That's good. And that, across MedComms now, I mean, we are a business that's embraced that flexibility of working. I think that's been a good thing for everybody. Do you travel much, just out of interest, just to wrap up? But you talk about events and such. Do you
Yeah.
actually do much traveling, or is it all, I don't know, virtual events or something?
No. I mean, I think we've all seen that many of our clients are happy to return to on-site if face-to-face events. So yeah, we are also traveling. It's not a huge part of the work, but it's part of the job to also support on-site.
Right. Okay. All right. Look, it's fascinating. We probably should wrap up there, but it's fascinating to hear your story, and honestly, the enthusiasm comes across. I think it's brilliant. So I hope anybody listening to this will know that there's some great opportunities within MedComms, and I know I can speak for you and say you're very happy for people to reach out to you. LinkedIn is an easy way. So I hope people will take advantage of that. But it's just lovely listening to you talking. So just for the moment, I'm just going to say a big thank you and wrap up. So take care of yourselves and let's say goodbye. Bye bye.